Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch.
I'm upset with the fact that he's not being authentic with me about the things that are going on. And it's not even the same kind of second wife situation that we've talked about. He brought me in front of his friend and he belittled me and he was interrupting me, and I'm supposed to just be okay with that. Like, everybody has a breaking point. Grow up. He never finds fault with his own actions. Everything's my fault all the time. And you get tired of it after a while and you throw stuff.
Right. She's trying to justify it, trying to justify being physically assaultive, that he never takes responsibility. And so, at some point you have a breaking point. In this episode, Angela was doing a smaller version of it, or a bigger version of it. Kimberly's doing a smaller version of what Angela does. Angela is physically assaultive with Michael, verbally assaultive, I think potentially economically abusive to Michael. And she will always justify it. She'll be like, what else am I supposed to do? And I talked for a long time about that. So what Kimberly is doing is representing a small part of that. There'd be nothing wrong with, and if Kimberly were my client, I actually, well, it depends, but I probably wouldn't just stand by while she justified physically assaulting her partner. Of course, I would empathize with her feelings, and I would steer the conversation towards, okay, so he told you what about the polygamy? And she would start giving you, I was like, how'd that feel when he told you that? Well, I thought he was disrespecting me. Okay, but when you think about that reality, what does that mean to you? And what I would be trying to get towards what I think is there, which is the pain of, wait, what? I have to lose him? I lose him either way? Because I think that's what's going on. So I would hope to get there. And then at a certain point, I'd say, okay, let's circle back to what you told me about how you purposely put a drink into his face and all over his body. And you've done this before. And, let's talk about what that is. And earlier you said it was just natural. You had a breaking point. So let's talk about your emotional regulation. Let's talk about, where did you get that from? I'm almost positive. Of course, I can never really know for sure, but I'm almost positive that Kimberly would say, well, in my household when I was growing up, one of my parents or both would lose their temper, and it was a lot worse than that. And I would say, yeah, certainly you've done a lot better than your parents have, because I'm just going to take a guess and say that's true. However, that doesn't mean that going in their direction is okay. By comparison, you're way better, but I think you have a moral range of what is possible in a situation like that is askew. And we need to pull it, because that was what was modeled to you. So we got to continue pulling it back to what is actually fair. What you did was not fair. In some respects, in our jurisdiction, that would be considered illegal. You could actually be charged with maybe a 4th-degree assault or something. I don't know, but it's possible. So, let's work on that. What else could you have done? If you really wanted to declare that he was mistreating you, what's another way that you could do that? That kind of thing. So I don't think she sees that. And the fact that she's doing it again and justifying it again, to me, says she probably grew up with far worse and feels like it's normal. Because like for me, I did not grow up with any of that. And when I see stuff like that, so actually that's something you can actually check in with yourself, is when you see stuff like that, how does it make you feel? And it could go either way. If you grew up with a lot of that, it could actually trigger you because it reminds you. Or if you grew up with a lot of that, you could be numb to it and be like, well, I don't know, sometimes you fly off the handle. I did not grow up with any of that stuff. And so when I see that, it's very shocking to me. Like, I don't know if in my life, in all my travels, I have ever seen someone do something like that, something along those lines, in my personal life, or I guess even in my professional life, because it's not like I would see that in my office. I've certainly heard of extreme abuse and violence and horribleness, but yeah, I know at the very least in my personal life, I don't know if I've ever seen someone out of anger splash a drink in someone's face. So when I see it, it's like, no, like there's so many other things you could do.
Okay, let's not go crazy.
How many times I interrupt you? How many times I've been listening to you?
You did it the whole time.
When? It's a lie. I
And then
did
you
not.
talking to me like I'm some dog. I'm a grown-ass woman. Don't talk to me like that. I'm not a
So now they're focusing on the interruption instead of what really they should be. What if I were there, I'd be like, okay, so if you can handle it, I would continue to clarify. Yeah, if I were in Kim's corner, I'd be like, ask more, go back to that. Really, now that he's away from his friend, really get some concrete, come at it from different angles. Because I think in the past, she would be like, I would be number one, right? And he's like, yes, you would be number one. And I think culturally that would be true since she's the first wife, maybe the oldest wife, then yeah, she would get the most respect from the other wives and in the family. But I think what she hoped it would mean is that she would get 99% of the love and attention, which is a different thing, I think, than some sort of ranking respect, right? So I'd say, what will he love these other women? How much time will he spend with them? Will he love the children? How many wives are we talking here? If we agree to one, do you have full reign to just make a unilateral decision and marry other women too? Or do I have veto power on that? What if this other woman, what if I try to get to know her and I hate her, or she hates me, or we don't speak each other's language or something? What's going on? Do I have to hang out with the kids? What if I want to hang out? Like really specific, really get the picture in your mind. That's what I would hope that she would do, because she was starting down that road. If I was in his corner, I'd be like, you've got to tell her like what your deal is. Like give her the whole rundown, what you're looking for and what you're willing to budge on.
show pony. I don't just do for you. And the way he's talking was nothing like the way you said it was going to be. I think everybody's right. I'm insane. Oh, I love Usman. Oh, I'll do anything for Usman.
Right, so she feels like a fool, and she's now recalling all the times that people in her life had said, like, what are you doing? Like, you're going to be with this guy that might not even really like you or love you, and he's going to marry other women? Like, I don't understand. Like, are you deluding yourself? And so now she's like, I think everyone was right. And it's like, maybe.
You think I like acting this way? This isn't me.
This is you.
It's me. It's
I'm
me.
glad
when
you are
piss
revealing
me
this
off.
kind of attitude now.
Oh, whatever. Like, you're so.
So I think there's a part of her that feels bad. I hear it. She's trying to justify, which is different than what Angela does. That's why I think Kimberly is far from Angela, but like 5 or 10% in that direction. Because in that moment she says, do you think I like behaving this way? Because I think she has an impulse of like, why did I do that? And then she's vocalizing the opposite. She can only verbalize the opposite. So she's having a battle on the inside of her, I think. That's saying, one side of her saying, that's not okay. You can't do that. You lost control. You lost your temper. There's a lot of other ways to have done what you did. You didn't have to do that. It's disrespectful. If you want to be disrespected, you got to be respected. You got to give respect. So I think that's voice. But the other voice is saying like, well, what else am I supposed to do? Or, well, he disrespected me. Or it's just a shake. Who cares? But that's what she verbalizes. She verbalizes that side of the argument because he's not really saying anything. She's having an argument with herself out, that's external.
Perfect. I don't want to be in a relationship where I'm the bad guy all the time. I am really regretting that I even came here in the first place. If you're going to do this to me now and be so rude and disrespectful to me, I'll go home. I'll leave. I don't need to be here.
Yeah, and she's still, even in the interview, focusing on the disrespect instead of what I believe is happening is grief, is like the loss of the future and of this relationship. I think she's right now realizing this cannot work. This won't work. And I don't know what else to do. And she's really focusing on the disrespect, which is also similar to Angela. Angela focuses in her way on disrespect rather than on the attachment loss and the attachment words. Because she's always talking about, you're not going to make a fool of me. I'll make a fool out of you. But so Angela's further down the road.
But I want to make sure that it's going to happen on my terms as well because it's going to affect my life too. I wish I never would have came here.
You can go back.
I will go back.
It's easy.
Don't worry about that. You think that you're just innocent in all this. Like I had no cause to get upset. That's how you think?
You can be upset, but what you said is the reason that make you upset. That I interrupt you. It's
But
right.
it is the reason,
No.
Usman.
Whenever something happens, you will say that I interrupt you.
Yeah, who knows? But I could see that being true, or at least partially true, that Usman is identifying that she has a pattern of avoiding what's really happening for her by criticizing and saying she's really focusing on the interruption part. And maybe it happened, it was edited, but you'd think at some point she would move past that and towards, well, because she just even said earlier, it's like, I was trying to talk to your friend and you kept interrupting me. It's like, okay, fine, I interrupted you. But you would hope that she would move past that and be like, okay, I think I've learned what you really want with this whole other wife thing. And I don't think I want that, or I think you deceived me, those kinds of things. But I don't think she can face that because she either isn't self-aware enough or it's too difficult to face because it's so painful.
Kimberly, stop telling me I interrupt you and that's why you're doing what you're doing. I know what upset you.
What?
You
the
can't
whole
say it,
topic?
but I know. It is so obvious that Kimberly is jealous because of second wife. When Kimberly visited me the first trip,
Right. That's my suspicion too. So Usman's like, okay, you can focus on the interruption thing, but I know why you're upset. It's because you said you were okay with a second wife, but you weren't actually okay. Or you deluded yourself into thinking that a second wife would be, very distant from me. But she's a wife. She's not a surrogate to my children. She's my wife. Now, we could make an argument that he did deceive her. We don't have to look very far to see that he didn't tell her enough information, that's for sure. But like I said earlier, I think they were both guilty. I think she was guilty of not asking questions and going into denial partially, and he was guilty of not being more forthcoming. He should have known that a long time ago. He should be like, look, okay, you don't seem to be asking me a lot of questions, but I got to tell you, because I don't think you really understand. We got to make sure that you understand what you're getting into here, and he never did that.
but now I think she's facing the reality of having the second wife now, and that's why she's not okay with that.
Right, that seems to be true too. And I feel bad for her. You can't help who you fall in love with, and it's normal in the beginning to go into denial about your partner's faults. So it's not like it's unusual what happened to her.
That is frustrating.
All I was trying to do was talk to your friend. That's all I was trying to do.
You know that it's not the interruption that is your problem. Your problem is that you love
You
me and I
always
love
say
you,
that.
and you see that I mean it, I must have another wife. That's just a problem.
That's not the
If
problem.
that's not a problem, why are you saying that you're not going to see her?
That's not the problem. I don't need to see her. I don't live here.
Yeah, Usman's trying to have a rational conversation, and she's just like completely refusing. Now, I don't know. She knows herself better than I know her, obviously, but it doesn't look like she's being rational right now. Now, maybe it's just a temporary situation where she doesn't know what to do. Maybe with some time, she'll come around and be like, yeah, that was what I was upset about. It didn't really have to do with the interruption thing.
I don't need to see her. Why do I need to see her? This is not my culture. I've said that time and time again. How many times have I said that? I feel like I'm doing everything I can to adapt to your culture. Everything.
Now, well, that's not true. If she was doing everything, she would do what he wants. So she's doing some things, I suppose. I mean, a pretty big thing, saying it's okay for, but from the beginning, I'm like, when she says that she's okay with him being married, I'm like, I don't think you know what you're saying. I think anyway, point is that what her request is, it's not insane. She's saying, let's meet in the middle. Sure, you can have a second wife and you can have kids, but essentially you and I are the only ones that are married. That other woman is essentially just a surrogate for your kids. That's it. You're not in love with her. You don't spend time with her enough, but you spend enough time with her to get her pregnant a few times, but that's it. Because can't we have that? That's not unreasonable to ask. It might be unreasonable to expect that, but it's not unreasonable to ask. And that is, I think, what she's asking. But I don't think she was explicit about that. I think they just kept saying, that I would be the primary. And he's like, yeah, you'd be the primary, because he thinks primary means you would be number one, and thus you would outrank the other wives. But what she meant by primary was, I am essentially your only real wife in emotion. There's this other woman that is, I guess, legally your wife that you're having kids with, but she's not actually a wife. I think she was telling herself that.
We had sex. That's not my culture without getting married to you. I did that to adopt your culture. So anytime you talk, you say you blend into my culture, you blend into anything. You did quarter, I did almost 70%.
Think so?
Yes.
I'm in a country by myself with somebody who supposedly loves me, that I'm willing to go meet his family, let him take a second wife. You don't think this is a lot? You don't think it's a lot for me?
If this is not healthy for us, it's better we cut it off.
Yeah, I think that's true. Now, I'm guessing some people would see this scene and think that this is evidence that he never loved her, that he never intended on being with her. He might even purposely have tricked her and then revealed this because he wants out or something. It's possible. But it's also possible that he too was in denial like she was, because he wanted to make this work. And he is more differentiated in this moment to see the woods for the trees and be like, yeah, I didn't, when she said she was okay with it, I don't think I understood what she meant by that. I thought that meant she was okay with it, but when she actually is faced with the reality of it, she's clearly not okay with it, which means we can't be together.
If is that what you want?
Yeah, if this
is that what you want?
If this is not cool and we're not ready for that, I think it's better we just cut it off.
I think I'm just gonna try to go home. This is a whole different thing in my life. I respect it for his culture and his religion or whatever it is, but like, I don't get that respect back. Like, you just put me in the situation, I'm supposed to be okay with it.
So she keeps framing it. I mean, she's getting closer to what I would think to be a more balanced perspective, just based on what I've seen. Who knows? But she's getting closer. She's, I think, seeing it more accurately, but she's still framing it as, you're not respecting me. And I don't think it's a matter of respect. I think this is what he's always set out to do. And when he was saying, I'm going to marry other women, I think he thought he knew that you knew. I think he thought she knew what that meant. He made a grave mistake with that. He should have really made sure she understood what that meant. He was probably avoiding it. But she's framing it as, look, I'm respecting you. I'm willing to compromise. How come you won't compromise? And it's interesting that he did. I don't know if I showed the clip, but he says, I did compromise. I had sex with you prior to being married to you. That's a huge compromise. I slept in your room. That's a huge compromise for me. So that is interesting, right? Because from my perspective, that's not a compromise. It's just acting normal. But to him, it is a huge sacrifice. So maybe he's made a number of sacrifices along those lines.
That's not okay. That's not okay to me. Sorry. I'm going to look for a plane ticket. I'll borrow the money from somebody. You go marry 5,000 wives if you want.
You can get your ticket and go.
I mean, honestly, this might be for the best, given especially what we've learned about what he really wants and what he is, what his deal breaker is. Now, I don't know. We're only on, episode 4, so they probably get back together, right? I don't know.
Out of this country.
Listen.
Don't touch me. I'm telling you, don't touch me. Usman, I'm not playing. Stop.
Okay, so he's trying, I think, to make up or maybe gracefully break up or something, but he's putting hands on. I think he thinks he's being nice. She's saying, don't touch me. I would recommend that he not touch her. He can certainly stand away from her, express himself that way, but she would be potentially in the right to strike him or to be physical with him to get him off of her, because she was clear twice and she has the right to not be touched. So I wouldn't recommend that he do this.
Leave me the alone. I'll do whatever the I want.
All right, well, okay, so that's good. I mean, who knows? Maybe next week we'll see something horrible, but looks like it won't get violent. I hope it doesn't get violent. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.